how can you build anything without having eyes and ears? So you shouldn't just open your eyes and ears once a week or once a month or every 6 months. You need to look where you're going all the time. It's constant correction. And that's what the power of user centricity and research into design in an agile way. That's ultimately what we're looking at.
Welcome to the Forward Slash podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. Today, we have with us all three of that in like one person, right? All three of those things in one person. Dr. Nick Fine joins us today. Nick is a digital psychologist and user experience researcher with over 15 years of hands-on experience shaping critical digital products across government, enterprise, and agency environments. Nick holds a PhD in human-computer interaction, but don't let the doctor fool you. He's the guy with his sleeves rolled up doing the work. From regulated industries and clinical systems to multi-million pound, that's right, he's from across the pond, joining us from, where are you at in England?
Just north of London.
Just north of London.
Yeah, London suburbs.
Multi-million pound government projects, and even the ethically gray areas of digital design, Nick has seen and done it all firsthand. He's known for blending behavioral science with evidence-led design, championing scientific standards in UX, and reminding the field that research isn't just about asking questions. It's about asking the right ones and interpreting them with rigor. When he's not deep in user research, Nick is sharing insights on stage, in podcasts, and with teams looking to make their products more human-centered and science-driven. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Nick Fine.
Thank you very much for having me, James. Very, very pleased to be here.
Yeah. So I got to hear about the stage part. What do you do on stage?
Well, no, it's just I get invited to conferences every year.
Gotcha.
And it's just another channel to be able to share and educate and entertain, at the same time, to try to just move the needle forward, to try to improve our working lives and just, more job security, build better things, build things the right way.
Gotcha. You're not belting out in song in like Sweeney Todd or anything like that. Okay. Gotcha.
You really, really don't want me to do that.
That's fantastic.
I have some talents, but singing ain't one of them, or dancing
singing ain't one of them. All right.
Ain't it? Yeah.
I love that you kind of pointed out don't let the doctor fool you in your bio. That's there is that perception that whenever anybody gets that that doctor in front of their name, that they don't actually work, but you're the guy who actually does get work done, right?
Absolutely. How people display their PhD has become a bit of a bone of contention. I've only kind of kept it that way and been Dr. Nick Fine rather than Nick Fine PhD as a signpost for about 10 years on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And because I am a practitioner, that's why I have to say things, because there's lots of people with PhDs who aren't doing the kind of the practitioner level work. They're doing lots of leadership and management stuff. So I just need that to be clear that, I'm not stuck away in some white ivory tower or in a leadership committee or whatever that thing looks like. I'm sleeves rolled up on the ground doing the work.
Fantastic. So you're not that ivory tower architect like we have in the software development industry that they're so disconnected from the day-to-day stuff that their opinion gets less and less valuable over time. So that's good. I like that you're staying close to the work. That's fantastic. We were talking a little bit about agile and product management and those sort of things, and those are really interesting topics to me and very close and near and dear to my heart. But how's your experience been in the, we've gone through this transition through the years of, we did project management back in the day, and now, now we're doing product management. So, and everybody's very, very keen on, we got to make that distinction. How's your experience been in that as we've made the transition?
I think it's been an absolute dumpster fire. I think it's been an absolute, I don't want to swear, but it's been not a very poor experiment. I think a very poor public experiment, like a form of a clinical trial where we thought, project management, okay, we've been doing that since forever. We've got Prince 2 people and we've got all these methodologies and ways of doing things. Let's just bin it all. Let's replace it with somebody young and experienced in a brand new practice that has got no heritage, no provenance, no rule set, no anything, and let's put them in charge of product teams. And as a practitioner, I've worked for lots, and over the past 5 to 8 years, I've worked for lots of different kinds of product managers, right? Some incredible product managers, like visionary entrepreneurs who roll their sleeves up and are truly kind of unicorny. But I've worked for also the majority, which tend to be, when I say entitled, I don't mean it like that, but I mean some kind of, they have this kind of this need to be senior, right? And this need to be in charge. And it's a problem because they don't have the practitioner experience. They don't have the product management experience. They haven't got the strategies. They don't really have, they're guessing, and it's really obvious. And if you're older and wiser and more experienced, it's very hard to work for those sorts of folks because they ask you to do things which are ridiculous or inappropriate or like what? So it's you're trying to educate upwards or sideways, and it's really hard because egos get bruised, and you know what I mean? It gets the younger generations don't like older folks telling them that they're not doing the job right. Despite the fact that they're not doing the job right. Right? If everybody's doing brilliantly and making money and building great, profitable products, then I'm just a grumpy old man. But that's not the case. That's not the case. The case is we're not building the right things. Teams are being fired or made redundant in huge volumes, and we're genuinely and generally not delivering the value to the business that historically UX and product teams have done. And I think that's a fairly safe thing to say too.
Yeah, no, I think that is definitely fair. Now, this is an interesting concept. So, do you attribute it more to, just the way the world is today, or is it, or do you think there's something there about that project management mindset and that the formality of that from the past, that we've lost a little bit of that in this new kind of product world? Is it a generational issue, or is it a methodology issue, do you think? What do you attribute it more to?
It's a multifactorial problem. So you've got the fact that there is generational learning differences. Okay. So there isn't the knowledge transfer. People don't become apprentices or, midweight. No one as midweight has ever been midweight in recent history. Everyone just goes straight from junior or internal unemployed to senior within 2 years. So there's none of that learning and passing down the principles and the strategies and the experience. So that's one. Number two is management with a capital M died many moons ago. When I got into management, I was made to go on courses, Dale Carnegie and these sorts of courses, to learn how to do technical leadership, sales leadership, all of these various pro modules that I did, because if you're going to manage people and money, you should probably have a clue about what you're doing.
That'd probably be a good idea.
Probably be a good idea. But these days, again, everybody, the youngsters, see themselves as the finished article immediately. There's no growth mindset. There's no learning from experience. And because management died, that means all of this bad stuff that's happening is allowed to happen. Right? Historically, if we started doing stupid stuff, somebody in the management hierarchy would stop it.
Right.
But now you canvass opinion, you politic people, and as long as more people agree with you, you can do the wrong thing.
With backing, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it also means, and this is kind of core, there's a lot of finger pointing and blaming that distracts from the lack of experience and the lack of productivity or the lack of outcomes. So by it being in a committee, it safeguards the individual because you're in the herd, you're in a swarm. And this is what we see a lot of today. People swarming in committees, and committees are killing our industry.
And we talked a little bit, the last episode we had that we recorded, I don't know if it's necessarily coming out in that order, but we coined the term the Kardashian effect. So it seems that, kind of just kind of our culture is very much, all we see is this fakeness through social media and everything, that everybody seems to be these experts in these things where they, as you said, they didn't roll up their sleeves and do the hard work to learn the thing, but they can put it forward a front that makes it appear as if, oh, they are this expert and authority on whatever topic it may be, simply by controlling the message that goes out because that's all you see. You don't see that they're not actually delivering things or whatever the case may be. I think that's probably a big part of it as well.
We live in this post-truth world, and that's not anything radical or wild. That's actual facts. It's about controlling the narrative. Let's look at UX UI. Those guys were all art and creative directors. They had nothing to do with UX and had no user experience, no experience whatsoever in that field. They were all art and creative directors. Then they saw the UX thing going down, and were really jealous that these guys are doing design and we should be doing design, and came steaming in. But they didn't listen, and the whole point is that they controlled the narrative in numbers because there were more of them than there were us, and so UX UI was allowed to breathe and live, and we created this visual interaction design thing that was no different from the design that was already there. It was just a Trojan horse with the word UX in it to get in. But UX UI has a life of its own now. It should have died years ago. There are people who still wear that badge because the narrative, like flat Earth, is still floating around. It's wrong. It's just flat out wrong. But we can't stop them, and no, they won't listen.
Well, and maybe so. When you hear like UX, because I'm guilty of this as well, because I'm ignorant, right? When you hear, or I have been ignorant, when you hear UX, a lot of people assume, probably because of this phenomenon you're describing, that, oh, that's just making pretty things on a screen. Like that's just, oh, make the button pretty or whatever, right? That's a lot of the perception. So help me understand, or even help the listeners understand, like what when we talk about user experience, what does that really mean? It's not about the visuals. What is it really?
What is it really? And this is one of the hardest problems, and why we're in this state. UX was as guilty of not having a clear definition, and it's very hard to define. So I've defined it. There are two levels to my definition because it's hard to define, like a high top level and then a down low level. I'm going to try and get this together for you. It's basically user experience is the it's the creation of optimal experience, right? But that's the high level one. The low level, it's the creation of optimal experience through the conversion of user needs into design solutions, right? So UX, in a nutshell, is research into design.
Okay.
It's the research into design. It's designing in the user needs into whatever you're designing. That's user experience as close to as you can find. Now, what makes UX or user-centric UX so powerful is that that research into design is unique, or was unique, in the entire design world, in the entire IT world, entire digital world, right? There's lots of different forms of design, but UX as a research into design was more than just design, a lot more, because it's behavioral design. Right? And so when you just say it's about pretty things and it's about Figma and all this garbage, you're literally talking about the wrong practice. You're talking about visual design. You're not talking about my or our practice of user experience or user-centric user experience. And that's where we're at today. And that's what we've been trying to do so hard for the past nearly 10 years now, is just get back to user-centric UX. Stop with the visuals. Understand that it's research into design. Now, this is the important part. Historically, that was all in me, one person, or the architect, the UX architect or UX consultant role. But that's 10, 15 years ago. The market didn't support it. Skill shortages, unicorns, all this stuff. So UX UI was one way of solving that problem, unfortunately. But it's split. The role's split. And so you've got user researchers and UX designers. And we work together, and that's the UX team. Sometimes the researcher is the product manager in a really small company, which is less than ideal, I should say, for the record. But that's really what's going on. Now, we've lost that research into design. I'll take it back to the original question, because we've lost the cadence. We've lost the delivery methodology. There's no way to get this insight into the way of working, into the progress. So you get naive product managers going, we should do some research. They either do some bad research themselves, or say to the researcher, or bring in a researcher, do a thing, right? Which is an event-based research rather than like just BAU research, right? It's just we do research all the time.
So you
And
mean it's more of a
research is
continuum, or
absolutely,
continuous activity throughout the product?
yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, yeah. All right.
But when I say a rhythm, like how can you build anything without having eyes and ears? So you shouldn't just open your eyes and ears once a week or once a month or every 6 months. You need to look where you're going all the time. It's constant correction. And that's what the power of user centricity and research into design in an agile way. That's
So,
ultimately what we're talking about.
so this is an interesting thing. Like for me, my brain kind of goes as so. Our world is highly digital these days, right? Most of the things we interact with apps on our phones and websites and all those things. Did this concept of this like kind of user experience, is that a new thing, or did we do this sort of activity with physical products, kind of back in the day before we went all everything digital?
Ultimately, this is about iteration, and we've probably always iterated, but historically, all forms of development, be it digital or food or product or whatever, they
Mm-hmm.
tended to be very waterfall-y, right? You tended to have a big upfront discovery type thing where you got all your requirements, and that took a year or two. You got those into a ridiculous document called a business requirements document, and then you got a functional specifications document, and there were toll gates, and it was the reason why I haven't got any hair left is because we pulled it all out. It wasn't
Amen.
it wasn't a lot of fun
Yeah.
because in those 2 or 3 years of waterfall activity, the world is changing,
Mm.
right? And so waterfall doesn't support change management, and you have change requests, and that's when fights break out between
Mm-hmm.
client and
It's
and it just
litigious
it's
and yeah.
yeah, it's just that was within scope, that's not within scope, but how can you build it without that? It's just horrible, right? So agility, being agile, working in iterations. When I started in UX, agile wasn't truly born. It wasn't born in my world. It wasn't ubiquitous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
was doing waterfall UX, but we still iterated like mad. It's just you didn't call it like an agile iteration or a sprint based iteration. It was, I do a round of user testing, I learn stuff, I fix my prototype, I retest it. Right?
Gotcha.
Nothing that's as formal as it gets.
Right.
And you do that as often as you need to until it tests well. So to answer your question, is that where we used to do things? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty much sure that anybody building anything well, like you're prototyping a car, right? A lot of it has to happen inside because it's secret, but then
Mm.
you dress it up to look like your competitor's car and take it for a drive. You're testing it in certain conditions, or what I'm saying, there comes a point where you have to, right? And you have to then do the iterative thing. You can't just build in a garage and then release to the world. And that's what we see today in digital, people building top down, not seeing a user, releasing, wondering why things don't go well.
Hmm. Yeah, the startup world seems to kind of get this idea. It seems like, I know, like a lot of us, software engineers, we want to do everything right. You got to have 100% test coverage and all these things. We want to do everything to the nines, right? But kind of in that startup world, you have to get that knowledge from your users. You need to get your product to the users as quickly as possible and understand, how is this helping them? Is this helping someone's life? Is this making their life better? Are they going to be willing to pay for this thing, right? So kind of that startup world, I think they're a little closer to this mindset than like your big enterprise, right? Big enterprises tend to maybe go the other direction.
It really does depend, and I want to agree with you wholeheartedly because that would be easy, and no one would really argue. There are some I can't tell you how many founders come to me every year saying, "Nick, help," or I've been referred to through my networks at so and so. Well, can you help this person? They've just spent £2 million, and the agency have screwed them, and you know what I mean. They've gone live, and it's all gone horribly wrong. And it's like, well, has it seen a user? No. So you literally went into your cave, you built your genius visionary idea, and guess what? It doesn't match with the real world. Well, then you shouldn't have spent £2 million. I'm sorry, that's just irresponsible.
Yeah.
Right? So, but there are people who do it really well, and there's people who do it really badly. So, yeah, the startup world. I want to say there's some great stuff going in startup world. Like really genius, next level stuff. But I'd say the majority is probably building what they think, having a nasty wake up call, raising more money, and then doing things the right way.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's not a uniquely enterprise issue. It's not a uniquely startup issue. They don't have it all figured out either. So it is a pervasive kind of issue, you would say.
Yeah, man. I've been at some like supremely agile, user-centric, big enterprise brands, right? Um, and I've been at the same where it's like, being in a backwater and you're like, how can you be this size with this amount of resources and fumbling things so legendarily badly, like epic levels of bad, wastage, stupidity, double backing, repeating work that another team's doing on the other side of the building, all the usual shenanigans.
So it sounds like, I mean, at first we were kind of talking about this, the project mindset versus the product mindset. It does sound like you would agree with it, that kind of the notion of agility, using it not agile as the capital A agile, but the notion of having agility is important, especially with UX. But we figured that out, right? We've got all this stuff figured out. The agility, we got frameworks out the wazoo for agility. We know how to be agile, right? We know how to do that. We've got Fibonacci poker party thing, poker planning. We got all these things. That's all figured out. We got that all figured out.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I know you're being sarcastic, and that's a good bit just for the audience listening. James is being highly sarcastic.
Yes.
because Fibonacci poker, and I can't tell you, there's been about 3 or 4 gigs of mine in the past 5-10 years where I'm sitting down with a delivery lead or a product manager playing Fibonacci poker, and I'm like, is a 7 bigger than a 9? And is my time estimation the whole thing was garbage. So I work with John Kern, who is one of the co-authors of the Agile Manifesto, a legend of the field. And I said to him, John, man, like what's with the Fibonacci poker? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. And he said to me, Nick, that's not part of the original manifesto. That's the sort of thing that somebody else somewhere has tried to say, hey, we're making our own version of Agile. And they try to own it and to commercialize it, to sell it to their clients. And they add in all this other stuff. And it becomes a bit of a snowball. And it's collected a lot of junk over the years. And so I think there's a purer form of Agile that we can return to, a simpler form of Agile that I'm for the moment calling Fisher-Price Agile. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the kids need the agility. They need the Agile, and therefore it needs to be Fisher-Price for them. Because I don't mean to be rude, but if you've got a different learning style, but you need to be Agile, you're not going to go through all the coaching. You're not going to go through all the mentorship that it takes to develop an agile mindset, right? Because agility is ultimately a mindset. So all the ceremonies and rituals and all the stuff that we do, that's secondary, in my opinion, right? That's just how you execute the agility. The actual thinking of agility and the decision-making, the behavior of agility is all in your head. Right. And it does take a transition. It's not easy because some of it's like jumping out of an airplane and you like the first time and you're like, this feels weird, like walking out of meetings that I shouldn't be in or not doing heavy documentation. It feels really weird and wrong. Am I going to get in trouble for this stuff? But once you get past all of that, you start to go faster as a team and you start to respect each other and understanding that I'm starting to understand what I need to do, not really what I want or think I need to do. And that's amazing. If you, for a product manager, that's the productivity gap that we need to fill in. So people can, I can't say that word, mess around at home. I did well there. I did so well. People can mess around at home. And whatever the productivity, working from home, blah, 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 hybrid stuff is going on. If you want it, we can replace some of that massive loss with agility, with getting back on some kind of Fisher-Price agile user-centric rails. That's the hill I'm going to die on. That's what I truly believe in. And I believe that's the panacea for our world, for the youngsters, for the oldsters, for kind of everybody. That's how we work nicely together and ensure our jobs, build the right thing, keep our higher ups happy, job done. You know what I mean? Move along.
So do you think all of this kind of, I don't know, I'm probably using the wrong word here, but like regimented approach to agility, with all the cadence and the process and all of this stuff, I kind of think of it like maybe the intention was, I always use 80s references from 80s movies references. Is this like a Karate Kid thing where Mr. Miyagi's like, okay, paint the fence, right? So the outcome or the goal isn't that Daniel-san becomes like a fence painter. He's supposed to learn how to do an up block and a down block, those sort of things, right? So it's this building habit or muscles, muscle memory and habits. Was that the intent of all of this? And that the agility will follow? Now I know karate just because I sanded the floor, right? Like, was that the intent, do you think?
It's a good analogy because that's how we learned. Was the wax on, wax off style. Like, I don't really understand what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it until it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
There's no tolerance or patience for that kind of learning anymore, right? Like, they want to know black and white, too long didn't read, give me bullet points, I'm going to AI summarize it, all of that stuff. And you can't get into the detail. See, I'm often on Debbie Levitt's podcast once a month, and we do these Q&As. And it's remarkable. She's now got a graphic that says it depends, because we say it so many times. Like, there isn't a rule book. And one of my mantras, or one of the things that you would have heard me say at conference and on podcasts and anyway I'm allowed to talk, is there is no playbook. There's no rule book per se of UX, right? You learn it over time to being a practitioner. It's like saying, write me a rule book on how to be a surgeon, right? It's not, those are learned skills. You can't necessarily put them down in a book, and you don't know when to pick up what tool to do what procedure. Same thing with UX, right? But you need to learn these things through experience, ideally mentored experience, to know when's it appropriate to do an interview, when's it not appropriate to do an interview, when do you do the things, how do I create the strategy and use the tooling to get the outcome that my client needs or my stakeholder needs.
That's why they still call it practicing medicine, even when you
right. Right.
Yeah, you're still learning along the way. Your learning didn't all just happen in school. Okay, so you think there's an experiential element to that helps sharpen those skills and build that muscle memory over time that just needs to be there.
But bear in mind, right, you and I are older, right?
Well, speak for yourself. Okay, of course.
No, it's fine. It's all good. But what I'm saying is we are older. We probably sound like our grandparents to the kids, right? When we're talking about Victorian engineering and the quality of materials used to be, it's all plastic now instead of it being, wood or whatever, high tech. And I think because young millennials and Z and alphas are all born into this instant world of just fast, instant there. Everything that we're talking about, there's like a clear line in the sand between generations. And you're either kind of Victorian old school thinking, want to do things properly and learn and have a growth mindset, or you're young and you need it all instant, and you guys are all crazy for doing things the slow, dumb old way because we're young and brilliant and we've got the new tooling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where it's at. And unfortunately, you need both.
Yeah,
I think. And I think because of ageism and because millennials are in leadership roles, they've kicked us all out. All I see on LinkedIn are grey-haired or bald or whatever UX folk with the green thing saying looking for work, because no one wants to look at us for good, well, not for good reason, because they're defending their own positions. It's like, I can't have somebody tell me I'm doing a bad job who's got more experience than me. That would be a disaster, because it's all about optics.
I have my kids, like my oldest daughter she's 26. And so she didn't grow up, first day out of the womb, she got an iPad in her hand, right? So she grew up in a little bit of a difference. She was during that transition period. Working with her, like through her homework and stuff, was a different experience. I could sit down and try to explain concepts and stuff like that. But my younger daughters, if I'm working through homework, they're like, no, just tell me the answer. Like she does. She kind of has that tendency to be like, no, I don't want to do the journey with you, Dad. Tell me how to do the problem. Tell me the numbers right. You know what I mean? There's this mentality of like, no, just tell me what to do and get it to be done with this thing. Is it a unique thing to where we are in human history right now, or is that how our grandparents thought about us too? I don't know.
dopamine at the center of it all.
Mm.
Okay. Dopamine systems have been irreversibly changed by social media and by the internet, but accelerated and completely like catalyzed and concentrated by social media, like to the max, gone from first gear to sixth gear and overdrive, like in a 5-year period type thing. As a result of that, the younger generations, and this is all personal opinion, there's no science or evidence behind this. This is just my personal opinion based on years of observation, and dealing with a 12-year-old who is dopamine addicted, easy dopamine addicted. What we've done is we've changed the reward systems, and you've heard this in Fortune 500. You've heard it in the media, right? And it's true. We've changed it because people now just want easy dopamine, but that means learning, as you're seeing from people like your daughter or anybody else. They don't want the working out part, right? So that's just give me the answer, because that's what all of the systems and tooling does, right? There's no effort. And so if it requires effort, I'm not interested. And that's a disaster for my son's schooling and learning, because the minute he comes up with a maths problem and he can't work it out, they shut down. They literally shut down. And if you push from there, you're pushing deeply into mental health issues, because it's almost abusive. I'm asking them to do something that's like, it feels inappropriate. Now, this is the other thing I wanted to remember to say. In that Victorian analogy kind of thing, right? We were much more draconian. Mental health wasn't even invented as a word. And we told somebody that you're going to stand there and do that for 12 hours because I'm not going to feed you or whatever, right? Something barbaric, but that was socially acceptable back in the day, right? People worked long hours and, you know what I mean? They learned the skills of their trade because they needed to. Nowadays, you don't need to learn the skills. You can just say you're skilled. You can, you know what I mean? It's all that controlling of the narrative and who you are on social media. You don't have to be real. You don't have to be able to do any of the stuff. You just have to be able to say it. There's a very hungry audience of people willing to listen who have no filter for authenticity. And if you say, here, I've never done user research before, have all my prompts, buy my prompts and go and you become a user researcher. And people, great, yeah, fabulous. They don't even stop and think if there's any validity or if these things are any good. Has this guy done it before? Because it jumps the effort gap. It meets the dopamine need, you know?
Yeah. It's you're bringing up like an interesting concept, and I don't remember what the book was I was reading that was talking about this, but like our neurochemistry that's built into our brains wasn't designed for the world we live in right now. It was designed for way back, millennia and millennia. Like the evolution and adaptation has not caught up to our world, and it never will. Right? We will be fishes out of water in our world forever and ever, because the world changes around us so quickly. And the evolutionary systems that are in place in our biology can never, ever catch up. So we're going to be, we're always going to feel out of place in our, at least neurochemically in our world. So yeah, like that dopamine wasn't designed for what it's being used for right now. It was reinforcing different types of behaviors, and that took millennia to get there, right?
We should talk about AI though, right? Because all of this stuff with regards to generational learning, dopamine stuff, AI has got a lot to say about all of this, right? Because it leans into the effort and easy dopamine and doing stuff.
You think AI?
I don't know how you feel about it.
You think AI is going to catch on? You think it's going to be a thing?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, if at the moment it's a high overhyped misinformation machine, right? That you can't really use it in anger. It's great for coding stuff, and there's some really great specialized, fine-tuned applications of it. Fabulous. Good stuff, right? Everything else is trash. It's like, we've all, I don't care who you work for, everybody's been smashing AI into anything that they can find.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, here's my thing. Let's put it. Does AI make it better? No, let's try again. No, let's try again. And that's where we're at. Instead of the user-centric view of how can AI be used to improve meet user needs and remove pain points.
Yeah, you do see, especially product world, all the products are like, oh, AI powered, AI driven, AI. Now with AI, there's all of this out there. Do you have any examples, or can you think of like examples that you've seen where you're like, oh wow, okay, now that's doing it right. Like they did think of like, okay, how can I help my users, benefit their lives while leveraging AI, and it's done well. There's a lot of examples of doing it poorly. Do you have any thoughts of where we've done it well?
The only example I've seen of cool AI usage is there's an app, and I can't talk about it because it's internal and it's live and all of that stuff. It's company confidential. But one of our most senior engineers, who's also one of the youngest and genius guys, has built this thing. And this thing, it converts one thing into another, but does it by checking itself and internally validating and externally cross-validating the whole way. Right. And it's because it's a code-based thing, you can do that. It's much harder to do that with natural language and everything, right? And it's very, very impressive. It's really like science fiction, very, very cool. Anytime I see it, I'm like, I just don't know how you're doing that. It's really amazing. But that's pretty much the only example. I mean, managed to get Gemini 2.5 Pro 2 nights ago to do some pretty amazing persona work for me. Using the deep research function.
Oh, nice.
And it did what I've been trying to do all week. It created a data-driven persona by validating every single claim that it made in that document. Now, that's amazing. And that was what was breaking me, was because it couldn't do that before. But somebody on LinkedIn said to me, Nick, try it with the deep research thing on a large context model. And it took a while to do it, 15, 20 minutes, I think.
Yep.
But when it came back, I had like 30 pages of OMG.
Yeah.
Like this is super impressive. Then again, yesterday in the morning, Brad, my when I say partner, my design partner, my product team partner, Brad, the designer, said, dude, there's a support engineer who's been using this thing. He might have some really cool insights, or just, let's go talk to him. So I slacked him. He had minutes. I spoke to him there and then, did a quick half an hour thing, recorded it, took the transcript, put the transcript through Gemini 2.5 with my 2-year-old standard prompt, and it came out with an amazing table of user needs and pain points from that discussion with the support engineer. So I spent the next half an hour watching the video again with the Confluence page with all the stuff, with all the AI analysis. Pretty much word for word, absolutely spot on. Nice. Right? I checked it front to back. It was a couple of acronyms it got wrong, right? Which is especially the acronym. There's a programming language that we use in Atlassian world called Happy, H-A-P-I.
Yep.
But obviously it put down as Happy, H-A-P-P-Y.
Sure.
So that's a completely reasonable and expected natural language interpretation or parsing mistake. But semantically, 100% nailed it. And I cannot say that on any other AI service to date except for last night. And that gives me massive hope, right? I think this has been, like, again, a massive early stage clinical trial, or like an alpha, a public alpha, right? Where we're helping to train the model, helping to do this. But until now, the past 2 years have been very overhyped crap, right? But everybody's like, wow, this is amazing. So they're not really challenging it or considering it as much as they really should do. You see?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's very convincingly wrong. That's the problem. Yeah. It's hard to tell because it's very sure of itself when it is hallucinating, right? It's like a Dunning-Kruger, you know what I mean? It's like the thing has Dunning-Kruger, and then it's really sure of itself when it's absolutely wrong, and it just makes things up. But it sounds very convincing, so it's hard, right? It's very difficult, and you have to like kind of check it and make sure, like, are you sure about that assertion, or where did you get that statistic? Oh, I made it up. Like, it does that, and you're right to ask me about that because I completely made it up. It was a placeholder. Yeah, but you didn't really say it was a placeholder, did you?
Yeah. And so because I'm, for personal reasons and whatever reasons, I'm just like a laser-like validity guy. I can't help it. I've had an unfortunate life where I've been conned or lied to, and I've got trust issues and other things, right? So that's why I'm the scientist that I am. And so I ask these questions. I will challenge the AI, and I'll go that extra 10 miles, not just the extra mile, the extra 10 miles to double check and to validate, because I'm not prepared to grow in the wrong direction or to kind of eat rubbish. You know what I mean? Consume misinformation.
Sure.
And it's like the misinformation is it's just literally assume everything is wrong by default and look for the signal amongst the noise, because that's where we're at now. AI has given a whole, let's call it a lazy generation, a misinformation generating machine. And we haven't got any control mechanisms or processes or leadership to stop any of this stuff.
Yeah, it takes. I think, and I just wrote an article about how to kind of use AI when you're generating content and writing to maintain your authentic voice. And so there's patience involved. You can't just say, oh, write me this, and then just copy and paste it and be okay with it. Number one, it'll be wrong a lot, but number two, it's not your voice, right? So it does take a little time. So you're right. Like for people who are impatient, where they're built to be impatient, their entire world says be impatient. I'm just going to give you everything here in your face as soon as you ask for it. AI doing that with incorrect information is kind of a recipe for disaster. So it is. It's going to take like discipline, patience to work with AI, because you can get good information and good stuff out of AI and generative AI, but it's going to take discipline.
Definitely. One of the things I like about GPT is the way that it has the optimal level of verbosity or brevity, right? And it's got colorful emojis and stuff to break it up. It presents visually information in a more consumable way. When you look at Claude or Grok in particular has got a line of code in that says, make us lots of money by spending tokens by having this explosive output, right? You ask Grok a simple question and it's like, and you're like, wait, man, I just wanted to know, like, what's this in millimeters or something, right? And I've got a 3-page essay, and it's like, really, I didn't actually need that. Now, if you're a young dopamine person, like, you ain't reading all that, and I'm scanning it at best, and I'm a good scanner, and I can't be bothered, right? So you got to be able to consume the output. Like, if you can't be bothered to do the effort is in reading what it's put out, which I'm telling you, most people don't. They just can't be bothered. And I'm guilty of this too.
Sure.
Right? We've broken all of our effort systems. And if mine are broken, then I fear for everybody else's. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's going to take, you're going to have to be disciplined to not, and it as you're saying, it's very easy to look at it and be like, wow, that's really convincing stuff. Let me just copy and paste that into my document or whatever you're doing with the information, and just take it as is, no validity checking, no cross checking, anything like that. It's going to take discipline, patience, and fighting all of the urges that are in our world right now to really use this stuff well. Right, at least right now, for sure, because you're right, it's wrong and all that.
Do you think there's like a proofreader role coming up? It's like, I can't be bothered to check the AI output, so I'm going to pay somebody to do that for me.
That could be that's the thing we're going to struggle with as humanity, right? I mean, I do think that it is that big. AI's impact on the world is going to be that big that we are going to be rethinking what do we value, what do we want to pay people to do anymore, like, because it's eliminating a lot of jobs that right now people are paid to do things. So we have to think about, and this happened before with the Industrial Revolution, like we used to pay people to take a chisel in their hand and go beat on a mountain and cut a tunnel, where now we don't do it that way anymore, right? So they have to have other jobs. Well, we've been kind of like technologying our way into obsolescence as the human race, right? Like this was our last bastion, was thought work, right? And now it's like, computers do it pretty well too. Do we just all lay around and be fat, dumb, and happy and let the computers do everything? I don't know.
I think that's the career. Like, if you take a really dystopian neuromancer type view of the future, rather than, neuromancer, Blade Runner, like not Star Trek, right? Like the not Star Trek version. There's a character in Neuromancer called, I think it was called the Whale. And he's this guy, floating in a tank of fluid with like a respirator and other tubes coming in and out of him to take care of him, right? So you can live effectively like a fish in this tank. So you consume content all the time, right? Without having to stop and do human stuff. And that's a really extreme dystopian view of the world. But that's kind of the job for our children in the next 50 years. Because if they haven't got the skills to do stuff and the machines are doing everything for us, but yet you still need an economy and people need stuff to do during the day, well, it's the advertising model that you pay people to sit there and watch adverts and be consumers. I mean, it's really scary. The other thing is that what the young people accept as okay, it just even in UX terms, right, is outrageous. Like they've been abused so badly that they've come to accept bad UX as normal, and that's okay. And when old people like me come along and go, that's awful, they go, no, it's fine. And you're like, oh,
fine, yeah.
And it's like, it's not fine, but you've been kind of, what's the word? Gaslit into it almost, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so yeah.
Users, and it's funny how my experience has been, and I'm not a UX person, but whenever I do get the opportunity to spend time with users, you look at like how they're using the things you've built, and you're like, why are you doing that? I could put together like a multi-checkbox solution here, and you could just check all those things and say complete. When they were doing like 10 minutes to go and complete things individually, something like that. And they're like, well, that's just how we do things. It's funny how they can talk themselves into things that where I would look at it, I'd be like, because I'm a lazy developer. I look at it and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna put some multi-check boxes here and solve this problem once and for all. But they're just like, nope, this is my world. This is what I do every day. And it is. You're right. It's funny what you can talk yourself into.
I just came back from a place called Top Golf. You probably got it in America, like a driving range with a game, right?
Yeah.
It's half term here. Took my son there. Long story short, we hadn't been there since the pandemic, so for all intents and purposes, it was my first time, right? My 12-year-old. So I've got a 12-year-old who is completely sharp and super online and super digital, right? Between the pair of us, both ends of the experience and age spectrum, neither of us could work out how to do anything at this place. So I had to go ask for help. Yeah. And how do you start it? How do you onboard? All of this. Had to ask the guy, and he said, "Don't worry, we have this problem with everybody." He said, it's really easy to know once you know it, but first time is really hard. And I was like, I wanted to say, could you just re-record that for me so I can put this on LinkedIn? And it's UX isn't just digital checkout e-commerce stuff. It applies in the physical world, in footfall, in service design, customer service, all of it. It's just that the people are so used to a lack of UX or a lack of designing for me or people like me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of like that question earlier about like, did we do UX before with physical things? And I think you're right. I mean, there's more to experiencing products than just a digital, an LCD screen, right?
Yeah, totally. You know what? I've just thought of something. Before UX, okay, my first 5 to 8 years of my UX life from 2008 onwards was spent in UX labs or usability labs, right? That's before the pandemic. UX labs that's where we did the work, right? There wasn't all this discovery stuff. It didn't really exist. We didn't do all this market research crap rubbish. We just went into the lab with people and got them to do a thing. Now, most of these labs that we went into were also known as observation lounges or consumer studios, because Unilever have one, and some of these big multinational,
like P&G here in Cincinnati would have that kind of thing. Yeah,
absolutely. In fact, the P&G was one of them. I think I was in, because they became like reappropriated or became multi-use for UX folk as well as the consumer teams, right? Because that's where you've got a room that looks like it's. Let's say I'm in Glaxo. They had one at Glaxo when I was there. GlaxoSmithKline. The big pharmaceutical. They had one room that looked like an IKEA room, like somebody's front living room, right? It wasn't a corporate cubicle-y type thing, and it looked exactly like you walked in somebody's home. And that was the consumer lab where people would come in and open the toothpaste or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And this stuff is really, really important, especially when you're doing clinical or medical stuff, right? I need to know that a kid can't open it. I need to know that an old person with arthritis can open their meds. I need to know this stuff, and I need to watch it, and I need to see it firsthand in numbers so that I can iterate and design it so that it does work.
Absolutely.
Right? So, yes, it has existed, but it's been in that kind of specialist-y. kind of marketing area, if I'm brutally honest,
Mhm.
because it's a form of market research
Sure.
when it's consumer research like that.
But ultimately, you got to actually watch and interact with the people who are going to consume the thing that you're building, and you need to be able to observe them. Don't just ask them. Asking is okay, but you also need to, I think you absolutely need to be able to observe them interacting with the thing. That's why you build the prototypes.
The takeaway for the audience listening is that what people say and what people do are generally never the same thing. Right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
again, case in point, at the end of my lab session I just talked about, I'd say, okay, so you've just bought the red shoes. How did you find that? And they'll go, yeah, it was great. I loved it. It's a really good website. I love the colors. It was a really good experience. I'd use this and I'd tell all my friends to use it. Right. But I've just watched them failing to buy the red shoes for 20 minutes.
Tumbling around through the site, going all over the place.
Yeah. Not like, and you're in your head, you're going, no, it's right in front of you, but they weren't able to because it's our design problem. But they're trying to acquiesce. It's a known problem. It's a bias. They want to be a good test participant for me, the investigator, and that's a big bias. I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. I want to know what's actually going on. That's why I'm a behaviorist, because behavior is, in my opinion, a lot more reliable and valid than self-reported stuff, which tends to be aspirational and biased and all the other stuff.
And if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. That's where we got here, right? All our parents telling us that for years. That's what got us here. All right. So our next segment of the podcast, we have this little thing we do. We call it Ship It or Skip It.
Ship or skip, ship or skip. Everybody, we got to tell us if you ship or skip.
The idea here is we're gonna kind of throw out a topic, trend, or some some sort of topical information or idea, and we opine on that together. And then, I'll ask you your opinion on things. Is this something? Yes, we want to do it. That's ship it. Or no, get away from this. That's a skip it, right? So that's the idea. It's kind of hot or not type of thing. Okay, so the first one. What about using synthetic users? So artificially intelligence, generated users for doing testing of your products. What do you think about that?
So that's what, ship it or skip it?
Ship it or skip it.
Take it outside, beat it up, shoot it, chop it up into little pieces, and then spray it across the ocean so that it can never work again. So that's not even it's. Sorry, that's probably a bit harsh. Sorry. It's anytime anybody says synthetic users, I get really, really triggered, right? Anybody listening who doesn't know what synthetic users is an AI company that's been created to create AI participants. So you don't need to recruit anybody. I can just ask an artificial construct, and interview them like I'm doing recruitment. But as you can see, with the way AI is right now, and probably for the foreseeable future, that's never going to work. You need actual real user needs and real pain points in the actual context, right? I just said what people say and what they do are different things. An AI saying something is off the scale. So quite simply, no, forget it. I can't see any good use case for that coming up. I really can't. And I think it'll cause you more harm than good. And in time, I suppose it will show itself to be true. If people invest their ROI in something that is based around synthetic user insight, they're almost certainly going to build the wrong thing that has a negative or no ROI, which will should get questions asked.
Yeah, I tend to, I would agree. I think that it's you're just asking for trouble. So I would say skip it. If you're using synthetic users, you're going to get synthetic return. You're going to get synthetic delight. But your products aren't going to be used by synthetics, right? Like this isn't Blade Runner. This isn't we aren't synths, right? Or wasn't that what they called them in the movie?
Replicants.
Replicants, yes. The synthetic folks, like we are not replicants, right? You're not building products for them. You're building them for real human beings, and they need to be able to use your product. So why would you ask a synthetic entity about it?
I love the way you said that, though. It's like, if you're building for synthetic audience, then maybe this could work.
Yeah,
but no one's building for a synthetic audience.
Right. Yeah, that minute would be interesting, maybe, but we're not yet, at least. Right?
Yeah. No.
So, what about maybe on the other side of this? So instead of saying, okay, I have synthetic users that I'm asking, do you like my product? What about the on the other side of the equation, the thing doing the research and interacting with users and getting information out of them? How have we been able to do that well?
So this is interesting because I'm really conflicted on this particular one. I think this is both a ship it and skip it, depending
Okay.
upon, right?
But nothing about throwing it in the ocean or anything yet?
No, we're not doing anything
No,
barbaric because
okay,
synthetic use is in a class of its own in terms of stupidity and over marketing. So, like, that's why I was particularly rude about that one. But that's a special case. You triggered me. You said the magic words. So the Luddite in me wants to go, no, of course he can't do a good job. But the realist in me and the realist who's been around lots of kind of big enterprise gigs too knows that scale is a problem. Scale is a massive problem. And anybody that doesn't know it isn't experienced in that. So you can get all kinds of hypotheses from small sample work. But if you're trying to do big work for a big enterprise company, you need a big sample because you've got different geographies, different locations, right? There's cultural differences, language difference. There's so many differences that generally sometimes you really have to do that, which means you generate your hypotheses and you get your knowledge together locally and then test them at scale to see if they work in different areas. Well, I can't be in all those places. I can't do that. And I can't train up a team to be as good as me or I would trust, right? So there is definitely a case for having a AI avatar based service. Now I need to contextualize this because I'm sounding like a madman, right? This is for short poll based type questions, right? So, hi, I'm Bob, the automated avatar. Let me ask you your 3 biggest pain points about using product X, right?
Okay.
Nothing much more than that. It's not replacing a human interviewer. It's just an easier, low effort way to collect information at scale or opinions at scale, insight at scale, right?
Gotcha.
If people want to replace people like me with those things, yes, it's going to go horribly wrong. It's going to go bad, right? There's got to be biases around. Look, we talk about the Heisenberg principle, also known as the Big Brother principle, i.e., the minute you are being watched or you stick a camera on you or, there's some eyes on the wall that are looking at you, your behavior changes.
Right.
Right? That's a fundamental bias of our world.
To qualify what you're saying as ship it or skip it, the ship it would be, I just need to get like kind of answers to these questions, and then it's a script. Yes. It's a, so you could have the Max Headroom sit there and ask somebody the question, so it maybe looks like a human being, but glitches out every now and then. But like the other style of like where you're observing users and watching them interact with your product or your prototypes, no. I gotcha.
That I can't see that behavioral kind of research or analysis happening in our lifetimes. Now, I could be really wrong, and it might take 10, 15 years, right? That's very unlikely. I mean, look at what we've got right now, right? It's not getting better at speed. I think we've got some fundamental problems with it. So moving forwards, I can't see how it's going to interpret or parse or understand behavior. It's so nuanced, it's so subtle. I really can't see it happening ever, but I could be wrong on that. I really could be wrong. I mean, technology does amazing things, but not in any kind of reasonable service lifetime.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I can't help but think of like you hear these stories about like using AI to look at like X-rays, for instance, and they're able to pick up on subtle little things that's like, oh, this was a signal, there's a brain tumor forming on this MRI or whatever, right? So the imaging. But I think it's particularly adept at that's image processing, right? Those are subtle little things, and maybe the human eye doesn't have the level of granularity, so to speak, to pick up on those things, where a computer might be able to see that differently. It experiences the world differently than we do.
Yeah, totally. But we're talking about a specifically fine-tuned model that's all based around machine learning for a very specific task.
Yeah.
Great. That stuff's brilliant. That's what we should be doing. But this idea that we've got like GPT, Claude, etc., this open book of here's a prompt, like a terminal window, off you go, with no boundaries or definitions or user manual or anything. It's just, here's a thing, we're going to change it in the background. It might be wrong. Off you go. It seems really irresponsible to use that, to be using that in a live fire exercise called work.
Exactly. All right, so I'd say we both skip it on that one if I had,
Yeah.
or ship it in a
No.
contextually. Skip it on the synthetic users. Ship it with some context around where to ship it with the second one. What about like our worlds are intertwined. You being in the user experience world and me being a software engineer. But you hear about this like my world is like that vibe coding. Is there an analog in the user experience and kind of the design world of like? Just kind of interacting with an AI to kind of come up with a product. Is that a thing for you all too?
Well, no, but I put out a parody a couple of weeks ago called Vibe Research, just to send it all up, right? Because
Okay.
you obviously you can't do that. Research has got more structure to it and validity and all kinds of good stuff. But the whole vibe coding thing, I mean, I'm gonna slightly not answer your question because the vibe bit is like, I'm just going to go with the flow, man, and just follow. And that's cool, right? I've got nothing wrong with creative exploration, right? It's a great thing. It's a brilliant thing that there isn't probably enough of that, right? But vibe coding or, even Figma auto layouts and all the AI supported stuff that's doing designy type work, it's actually brilliant, right? So that's the part of the AI stuff that can help us test and iterate faster.
Mm-hmm.
So if your product manager or your designer or whoever it is can iterate, remember, UX is research into design. So
Correct.
if you can get the insight into your product faster, and then that's going to build you a better product faster.
It sounds like you're saying like use it as an accelerator, not a replacement. So you can do more iterations more quickly?
Yeah, but the point is that historically Agile has been the prototyping tool, but it's a bit of a pig to learn. The UX isn't great and designers don't know it. So getting hold of UX resource to get an interactive prototype to test has been hard. Whereas it used to be ubiquitous. Everybody had it. You didn't work in industry. That's like being a designer without Photoshop or equivalent back in the day. And things like Heroku and other prototyping kits were okay. But it's really about getting something testable that's either disposable or lightweight or just rapid. And all this AI design tooling is helping to achieve that. So you can vibe code together something in grotty HTML, something really quick, and then test it. That's fabulous, right? The reason why we started off with Balsamic and we did stuff in Agile is because it's low fidelity. There's no typography, there's no textures, there's no palette, right? It's just interaction design on a pure level. And if you can get to that really fast, or even doing hi-fi, I'm not really that bothered really. But if you give me something to test that's truly interactive, that represents the real thing, so I can see actual behavior, superb. Should be more agnostic about what you give me. All I care about is that I can see behavior with it. When you give me a limited image mapped Figma prototype, I can't see real behavior. Because I have to ask somebody, what would you do if you clicked on that thing? And that's self-reported. That's not observed.
Right.
So what they would do is not what they will do.
Definitely. So I guess, so with it being an accelerator, I know one of my coworkers, producer Ryan, he talked about like stay ugly. I think that's a phrase if I'm not butchering that. Stay ugly as long as possible. And the reason we had to stay ugly is because it was almost like cost prohibitive to get to the pretty phase, right? It took too long or it cost too much money to do that. But now you're kind of accelerating the timeline where you can get to the pretty phase using AI. And so you don't have to stay ugly quite as long, so to speak. Maybe is that kind of the idea what you're talking about?
Yes. Unfortunately, because of that that influx of the UX UI crew, all those art and creative directors, and Figma became the tool of UX choice and all of that. It all became visual stuff. But really, imagine building a house, and as you're building it, putting the bricks up, somebody's painting the walls. You're like, wait, man, this is probably going to change. The architect's going to punch a hole through that. What's the point in painting it?
Right.
And actually, it's not the paint and it's all a lovely aesthetic effect. But actually, can I walk through this thing? Can I find my way to the rooms? Can I get upstairs and down? You know what I mean? That's the important stuff. And that's the DNA of your experience. Everything else on top of it, they absolutely moderates it. I'm not denying that. But it's not the core DNA. It can't exist without it. I can live with an ugly website that does my banking, but I can't live with a pretty one that doesn't allow me to check my balance.
Right. It's the utility. Yeah. The usability, the utility of the tool, the thing that's most important, not the aesthetics, so to speak. Aesthetics can be changed.
Yeah. And user needs are central to UX, right? If you're not talking about user needs and pain points, you're not doing UX. It's a really clear, easy way of testing the water, like an acid test.
Gotcha.
So that black and white, stripped back, low fidelity, ugly version that you guys are talking about should be wall-to-wall user needs baked in. Right? And executed in a beautiful, usable, intuitive way. Then, when you pretty it up, you're just making it better and lovelier. Right? You're enhancing things by color coding them or giving visual depth or visual priority or all of those things that other layer does. And it's great, and I'm not disputing it. But it works to serve the layer underneath it. It isn't the layer that does the work.
All right. I like that. That's what I love about this podcast. I learn a lot on this podcast. This is fun. This is cool. All right. So we have our next segment of the show we refer to as our lightning round. And now this is the most important segment of the show. This is where we really throw all the other things out. These are filler topics. This is the meat of the show. We're really getting into the hard hitting questions. This is really where we get down to brass tacks, so to speak, right?
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire, don't slow down. Answer quick and make it count. In this game, there's no way out. It's time for the lightning round.
So I'll just fire these things at you, and I kind of want to hear just quick answers and what's really on your mind, right? These are the things that are really going to impact our audience the most, right? So, sourdough or wheat?
Sourdough.
Okay. How many hours of sleep do you need?
Oh God, what I need and what I get about 5.5 to 6, but I need about 7.
5.5 to 6. That's respectable. Now, I don't usually use this one because, kind of people, but you may be particularly adept at this question. Can you say "good day, mate" in an Australian accent?
Not without an Australian coming for me with a bat. I don't do accents well. I probably shouldn't do that.
What is your favorite car?
Oh, wow. I'm not really much of a car person, but my first car was the original shaped Mini, the British Leyland Mini, if you can remember that, the classic Mini. Like, think of the Italian Job.
Yeah.
That is probably not my favorite car today, but it's a classic car that I love, and it's got it close to my heart.
Now, did you have to beef up the suspension and throw out all the seats so you could carry all your gold like they did in that movie? Or
No. But 16-year-old me drove it into I wrote it off. I concertinaed the roof. It was my first and last accident. I've never had an accident since, so it obviously taught me something.
Concertina did the roof, so you literally peeled the roof off the thing. And those are pretty low. What did you go under?
No, I tried to take a rising hill that goes down in the wet at 2 a.m. coming back from my girlfriend's house at about 60 miles an hour on a 30-mile-an-hour road. And I basically went sideways, mounted the pavement, and bounced off the front wall of their front garden and bounced off of it at 90 degrees. And I found my glasses on the back shelf. The police couldn't even believe that I walked away from this thing, let alone didn't even go to hospital or anything. It was crazy. I was a lucky boy.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. All right. That's the answer we were looking for that question, by the way. That is the acceptable answer. Climb a mountain or jump from a plane? I think maybe I know the answer to this.
Climb a mountain.
Yeah?
Climb a mountain, because nothing fills me with more fear than jumping out of a plane. I'm not big on that stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever done it?
No, I'm a retired scuba diver, so I've got about 160 odd log dives with a maximum working depth at about 60 odd meters, which is deep. So I'm more of a go deep kind of guy rather than go high kind of guy.
One of our canned questions, and this will be a gimme for you then, is what does the acronym SCUBA stand for?
Oh, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
Yes. Polka dots or stripes?
Can't really give you they both have their benefits. I was going to say polka dots just for now, but stripes are cool too. So, yeah, can't really answer that one. Sorry.
It's tough to have a real
Ambivalent.
hard opinion about that one. I mean, you've got to
Yeah.
be really convicted if there is one. You're gonna have a strong opinion if there is an opinion to be had.
Okay, let's just say it depends on the application. If it's a shirt that I'm wearing, it's stripes. I'm not wearing polka dots, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's wallpaper, it's probably polka dots, not stripes. I know, not actually. No, I'm talking garbage. I don't know.
All right, what size bed do you prefer?
Oh God, the biggest one possible. Also, because my wife is like a radiator in this. So if I can't get far enough away from her, I melt. Yeah, big. But we've got like a queen size at home. But yeah, like if I could have a California king at home, I would.
What's your favorite martial art?
That's a really good question. I should say MMA because I'm a long-term UFC guy, but actually, personally, Tai Chi.
All right.
Because
Nice.
I studied Taekwondo for a few years, but I studied Tai Chi for a year when I was an undergrad doing my psychology degree. And I had a particularly amazing teacher who did particularly amazing things. And he was like a Mr. Miyagi kind of guy, but just a young Yorkshireman rather than an old kind of Asian gentleman. It was the meditative side and the kind of the spiritual or mental side that was as much as the kind of the physical, they call them dances, but those kind of kata, those movements that you do.
Right.
And what's also super cool is if you watch Jackie Chan, and I saw the new Karate Kid film yesterday with my son, which is great, but too short. A lot of it's Tai Chi just sped up.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
it really is wax on, wax off. You know, it really, really is.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that does it for our lightning round. You passed. You scored very well.
Thanks, guys.
You did a great job. A+. Good job. Any closing remarks for you want to share with folks? We're getting as we wrap up here.
Yeah, I would say, look, for anyone who's in UX or research and design, product, we have to stay up to date with this UX, with this AI stuff, right? Because it's the biggest thing since social networks, since internet, right? Since the Industrial Revolution. It's a massive, big, significant part of history, but it might not go well and it might not turn out as expected. So keep your human skills up. At the same time, don't expect that this AI thing is going to turn out well anytime soon. Assume that it isn't, and it's going to be an ongoing work in progress, and that some areas are going to get a lot better and more specialized, and some areas won't. But at the same time, we've still got to build the right thing. We've still got to make money for our brands. We've got to wash our own faces. You know what I mean? We want job security. We want to add value. And that value isn't only going to be in wrangling AI or having a set of AIs that obey you. Keep your human skills up. And remember, my ultimate value as a practitioner is in my ability to find the gold. I'm like a sniffer dog for valuable insight. Okay? That's all I am. And that's all I just don't want to overplay it. You don't need a PhD or any grandiose crap. You just need to be able to talk to people or observe them in numbers and pick the signal from the noise, report it back to your product manager, iterate. That's literally the way to do things. It's not difficult and everyone can do it. And if you can get AI to help you go faster, great.
It's fantastic. Anything to promote or anything like that?
If you like this sort of stuff, I'm a noisy guy on LinkedIn. I've been noisy for a long time. I'm probably notorious. And in which case, please do follow me on LinkedIn. I've got about 30,000 followers. I'm not in this for the fame, and you'll get that very quickly from my feed. I'm not a people pleaser. So I'm here to just kind of educate and share my opinion of the world. But it tends to align with lots of other people's, and I think they think that I'm speaking for them. So that's a good thing, and I feel good about it. So follow me and join the party.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, this has been great. As I said earlier, like I learn so much, especially when I invite folks that aren't, in the software engineering, like nuts and bolts world, right? I learn a lot. So you've edified my brain. I appreciate that. Then this has been fantastic. And I've already started following you on LinkedIn, so I'm really excited to tune in to some of the content that you're pushing out on LinkedIn for sure. So thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you both to you and to you, James and Ryan, because Ryan and I have a lot of interaction on LinkedIn. Ryan and I are cut from very much from the same cloth. We're user-centric advocates, and there aren't enough of us in the world. So follow Ryan, follow me, and let's make the world a more user-centric place. And it will mean that we have greater job security, less mental health issues, all good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you'd like to get in touch with us, drop us a line at @caliberty.com. See you next time. The / podcast is created by Caliberty. Our director is Dylan Courts, producer Ryan Wilson, with editing by John Corey and Jeremy Brown. Marketing support comes from Taylor Blessing. I'm your host, James Carman, and thank you for listening.